I'm Sonya Morton Firth and you're watching the Sonya Morton Firth Show. Today my guest is Andrew Cohen-Wray. Andy is one of the UK's leading mental performance coaches in athletics. But his journey from Olympic Stadium to Formula One pit lanes hasn't been easy. Andy spent 2 years reliving his memory every 24 hours following a stroke after post-traumatic stress syndrome. After getting to know his family again, he lost his brother to suicide and his mother to alcohol. Today, Andy works with Paralympic athlete Danny Crates, inspiring others to help build high-performance teams. Andy, thank you so much for being on the show today.
No, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Andy, take us back to that time, just before your stroke. What was your life like then? How did you get to that point?
Oh, good question. The journey's been long, been up and down, not your usual standard journey as such. So going back to when things started to go wrong for me would have been 2007. After a career in the police, of seeing not very nice things, unfortunately. I was wrong place, wrong time most days, so I was seeing a lot of dead bodies, going to a lot of incidents that just weren't very pleasant. And the nature of the work where we were very rural force, so we would have a lot of old people passing away, suicides, road traffic accidents, things like that. So a build-up of seeing that trauma. Unfortunately, and being a male, I'm not talking about those kinds of things because that's not what we do. And being in a male-orientated environment, we just don't talk.
Quite interesting because that's coming up a lot at the moment, especially with mental health awareness days, etc. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So being in that environment where we just don't talk kind of bit me on the backside is how I explain it in 2007. So what happened was I had a very, very sore head at the front here, massive headache. Didn't live too far from the hospital, sort of 8-9 miles away. Very late at night, so I thought I just got to go. But the headache was one of those headaches where people that have migraines and bright lights, I didn't feel that I could drive. I didn't think it would be safe. So being a runner, being an athlete, I thought I'd run to the hospital.
So you were an athlete as well as being in the police?
Yeah, a long time of competing. Yeah, I do 27, 28 years now. So long time, a lot of running. So I took myself off to hospital. I arrived at hospital as an unknown man. So from leaving home and arriving at the hospital, I guess I'd had a breakdown of sorts, and my brain had just shut itself down somehow. So I arrived at hospital. You get asked the questions, "Hi, how are you?" And you kind of, and they say, "How can we help you? What's the problem?" And I said, "I've got a really bad head." So a young lady was like, "Yeah, that's fine. We'll just take some details." And you're like, "Yeah, that's fine. I expect that." And she goes, "Right, we'll take your name." And you look at her and go, "Yeah, I have no idea. Your name, my name."
You didn't know your name?
No idea at all. And I felt a bit silly. She said, "Okay, so where do you live?" And I was like, "Yeah, where do I live? I've come from, no idea." Then they ask you if you're drunk, are you on drugs? And I'm like, "No, I've just run here, I'm fit as a fiddle, it's all good."
And you don't remember that journey from running to getting to the hospital?
No, just arrived. Yeah, just arrived. And then, so they sort of are not sure what to do with you. So some people in white coats came out and had a conversation with me. Realised I had some kind of mental breakdown of some description in some way, shape or form. So then started to piece the pictures of who I was together, really. So that was really hard work. So you arrive as an unknown man, not really knowing what's going on.
Wow, and presumably you might have had identification on you, or they might have searched
I just had my mobile phone with me. So back in the days, they weren't as
because
clever
you were running,
as they were
I guess,
now.
so you didn't have any...
Yeah, just didn't need anything, so just run in and go. But yeah, they managed to track down family. And I think it must have been because I told my wife at the time that I'd ring her when I got there, or I'd text her when I got there, and obviously didn't. So she phones the hospital, a good few hours later, and says, "Has Andy arrived?" And they're like, "No, we've got nobody here called Andy." And she's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then they start to piece two and two together and work out that the chap they've got who doesn't know who he is me. So yeah, very, very difficult, because then your wife arrives at hospital.
Did you didn't recognise your wife?
Didn't recognise her at all. Had no idea, which is even harder. So
Must have been
yeah,
completely...
probably more for her than me, because I didn't have a clue.
Of course.
But yeah, so then I ended up in the I guess the psychiatric unit for just under 6 months. But that was more for my safety, because how do I remember to cross the road? How do I know what's...
So do you remember what the last memory was at all, or was there was no recollection? No,
nothing at all. So unfortunately, the sort of the amnesia, I got diagnosed with dissociative amnesia as a kind of a offset of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. So I would have been suffering with PTSD and kind of depression and the nightmares, flashbacks, day terrors, night terrors, things like that. And so that would have just built up, and then the brain's gone, I've had enough, and shut down. And that would have shut down. I always say it doesn't have a filter, so the brain would have erased the memory. Well, I say erased, it's part of them somewhere, they're there, I just can't recall them.
Access them,
yeah, spot on. So they're all there, but it didn't filter, so it doesn't take the rubbish, the bad stuff, it takes everything. So it's not the good and the bad, it just takes the whole lot, which is really difficult, because there's some things you would like to remember.
Of course.
Obviously there's things you don't want to remember, which is
yes.
But you don't have a choice, so it's really, really hard. But the amnesia was so severe and or the trauma was so severe that it would only allow me to retain new memories for about 24, 48 hours. So I had nearly 2 years, 2007, 2009, where you're not retaining memories for very long.
So literally every other day,
give or take, yeah.
You were having to relive.
You reset again, yeah. So it's very much
like some sort of film.
Well, it is. 50 First Dates is the movie. Go and watch it.
I watched it last night.
Drew Barrymore. There you go. Yeah. So that's kind of and the lady it's actually based on a lady whose name is something Philpott. I might be memory bank, I forget. But yeah, Philpott. She's actually based out in Lincolnshire. So it is a kind of based on a true-ish story as such. But yeah, there is a lady that lives with that 24-hour. But mine wouldn't, whereas in the film she wakes up every morning and it's reset, mine would just kind of drift in and out throughout the day. Or just come and go, or I'd wake up and I'd be missing some and I'd have some or not have others and things like that. So it's quite sporadic, but it was about sort of 48 hours tops.
And how were you even able to sort of lead a normal, well, I guess you weren't able to lead a normal life.
So yeah, a normal life is very abnormal, but you've got to, I always talk about the difference between life-changing and life-defining. So I guess I'm one of those people, as you hear more about my journey, that when things happen, it doesn't define me. It changes who I am, and I've just got to move forward with it. Because I could sit back and go, I've lost my memory, I'm going to sit at home all day and watch television, that's fine. But that's not me, that's not what I do. It's kind of, I've just got to get on and kind of crack on, I guess. So I kind of created a few coping techniques and coping mechanisms and things like that. One of the best pieces of advice I was ever given by one of the psychologists was to just blag it, because I was always worried about when I met people who knew me so if I'd met you before and then I meet you again and I don't remember you, it's really awkward, and you'd be like, why doesn't he remember me? So you would use some very clever questioning and you would just blag it until you go, okay, you put the link and then you go, okay, yeah, that's Sonya now, yeah, okay.
There's so many times that's quite useful though, because the amount of times you see someone and go, God, I know that person, what's their name, what's their name?
Definitely, and you've got to just find some very clever questioning to kind of get information out of them so you can make the link as to how you know them or how they know you.
And did you write yourself little notes or anything like that?
Yeah, diaries became a big part of my life. So, you've made me a fantastic cup of coffee, but if I don't drink a cup of coffee for a couple of days, how do I know how to drink my coffee or how I like my coffee? So if you ask me, how do you take your coffee? I'd be like, no idea, in a cup, I guess. But that's as much as I would know. So I would recall things if I ate something that I hadn't eaten before and I liked it, you'd make a note of it. If you don't like it, you'd make an even bigger note so you make sure you don't have it again. So yeah, you end up writing down daily notes, daily diaries, so you know what you did, where you went and things like that. But you end up, and I still am today. I'm very much a creature of habit, so I like to know what I'm doing, where I'm going, and kind of very planned and processed, so I can cope with the day. So I know exactly where I'm going at what time and things like that. So you do become, you do lead a normalish life, but it is a bit sort of analysed just to help you cope. So you just like to know where you're going. So there's no shocks or surprises, because that just causes me stress and anxiety that I don't need, which is normal with everybody else. But I just like to, know where I'm going and what I'm getting on with, sort of thing.
And when did that stop? So when did that sort of losing every 24 to 48 hours, when did that stop?
Yeah, that would have been sort of mid-2009. So basically what happens from 2007 back, that's all gone.
So you
so
literally,
nothing at all, yeah.
So you still don't remember your mum, your
No.
family, your wife?
No, none of
Did you
that.
have
So those
children?
early days, it's all gone. So that's the hard bit. So you don't remember those sort of pre-2009. So the best way to describe it is I'm, 42 years old now with 10 years of memory. So from 2009 to 2019, I can retain stuff and it's all there. That's no problems at all. So anything pre that, school, early jobs, all of that is all gone. But I always explain it that I have a knowledge, so I have a kind of a black and white picture, if that makes sense, of knowing I've done stuff, and that's where you speak to friends, colleagues, and they go, oh, we did this, so they kind of have pieced those years together. So I have a knowledge, so I can talk about my time in the police, I can talk about jobs I went to and things I did, but I don't remember doing it, if that makes sense. I don't have the colourful memory of actually being there. What did I see, what did I hear, what did I feel? I just know I did it. So things like, so being in the police, I know I was a policeman, I know I went to certain jobs and saw certain things, but they're more pocket notebook diaries, entries and stuff like that, and people have told me you've been to so many jobs or these jobs and things like that. Because you have to piece it together, because when you have a nightmare or something, and you're like,
where did that
come
now
from?
That's interesting. So did you dream of the past?
Yes, I have dreams. Yeah, I still dream, and you still have stuff. So that's why I say it's all there somewhere.
So dreams
I just can't relate to
completely
it.
come back from the past.
Yeah, mainly the night terrors and the traumatic stuff comes back. So the nightmare still continues. Yeah, the seeing bodies and things like that. That still is there and comes back.
Okay,
but you have to kind of go. It's a bit like being a horror movie. Is that real or is it not real? Sort of things. You have to kind of distinguish. But you talk to colleagues and they can piece together it for you. Cause
presumably you didn't. Did you go back to the police force?
No.
Did they help you?
No, that's right. It's always a difficult one. We got, for every fatality we go to, we'd be given X amount of tokens to go see a counsellor or therapist or whatever.
Wow.
But when
Sorry,
you're
that
dealing
just
with
sounds token.
Yeah, they're tokens. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's probably not the right word, but yeah, that's what they are. They're a voucher or something like that. But the problem is when you're seeing so many over a continuous amount of time, you don't actually have the hours in the week to go and cash in your tokens as such. So it becomes a bit of a difficult thing. So when you go to things like the Potter's Bar rail crash or something, and you've got a big number, you've got a whole world of stuff.
Were you there at the Potter's Bar rail
we
crash?
did. I was moving ambulances backwards and forwards, so I was doing.
How many died in that?
I can't remember now,
Yeah.
but a good few. But so unfortunately, so you're doing things like that, and if you go to a major incident, you really struggle to. To deal with it at the time and things like that, and you get, there is support, and the good thing is there's a lot more support now. Unfortunately, back in my day, the police service is very different to the armed forces, so the armed forces get phenomenal amount of support, which is great, but the police service, we don't seem to give the same, but it is changing, it is getting better because of the awareness and stuff, and that's why it's good to talk about these kinds of things.
It really is. It really is.
So there are other people that I still speak to in the job that come and chat or go and talk and stuff like that, and they make the effort to go and talk, whereas we were just, because of cuts and understaffing and stuff, you're just too busy doing your job to kind of take the time out of doing the job to go and get better, and that's what vicious cycle happens.
I've got so many things that I'd love to ask you around this, but I know you were a runner before. Mm-hmm. Did you pick that back? I mean, was it something that you could pick back up again? Did you continue to run? Or
absolutely. So I guess running and athletics has been the one constant throughout my entire life. 28-year career, when I was put into the secure unit in the hospital, I was very restless. I felt like you wanted to go and run.
Yeah.
Because
but you didn't remember running. It wasn't.
No, it's a muscle memory,
of
isn't
course,
it?
Of course,
so it's no different to cleaning your teeth. You don't think
you've
about
still got
it.
the same body.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we had this. So inside the unit, you had a little bit of grass. It was a square building, and there was like a bit of a grassy courtyard in the middle. And I would just go run around there, and I'd run around there for hours at a time, and that would drive the mental people more mental, because there's just some bloke just running round and round and round.
Did anyone sort of say to you, "Wow, you're doing that really well"?
Well, yeah, they would. They knew about my running background,
Yeah,
obviously, because people would update them and things. So they would know that running, and my friends would come and they would be runners, and they would guys a runner. But it was just my way of kind of getting out, really, and just that's where I do my thinking. That's where I do my sort of working out in the head. But yeah, I would run around that for quite a while. And when I left, after 6 months, there was a little track that had been worn where I'd run round. So, because it was probably no more than about 70, 80 metres around. And if you're out there for, I was running marathons and stuff back in the day. I was doing quite a lot of miles. So I'd go out, think nothing of running around there for an hour. And you just drive everybody crazy because you're just running in circles.
How interesting that your brain is pretty much switched off, but your body, remember, there is a mind-body connect, that there is a brain to body connection, and that's still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think running has always been one of the best therapies I've ever had, really, because that's where you get your thinking time. That's where you go out and get away from it all. And
therapeutic, and releases endorphins.
Definitely, all that kind of really good stuff. So it is very, very good for you. Body's struggling now, mind, but that's another story.
and tell me, I mean, going back to your sort of your family, I mean, did you have to look? This sounds a bit strange, but did you have to sort of fall in love with your wife again? I mean,
yes, hence why I'm now divorced, because
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all it's very difficult because you land back in the world as an unknown man, and you're told, this is your wife, this is your daughter. So my daughter was 6 months old at the time, and she's now 13. So you land back in a ready-made family in a ready-made world, and that's really hard. So you kind of go, I don't remember falling in love. I don't, and it kind of, it doesn't work, unfortunately, because it is very, very difficult.
Of course.
But that's the way it goes. And even meeting your parents for the first time and things like that, it's really, really hard. You're in a ready-made family.
Okay, and then in terms of your family, as in your parents, I know your brother sadly committed suicide. Was that before? Was this after this incident?
Yeah, so that was 2012 in November. So yeah, he was obviously struggling, but didn't really talk about it.
So you just got to know him?
I just got to know them, yeah, which is really difficult. So it's always, and I think that's why I can talk about it so openly and freshly, because I don't have with the dissociative dissociative conditions, a lot of the emotions are blocked. So, when I do my talks and my slides, I have the CCTV images of my brother walking into the station, stood on the end of the platform. Then I have an image of him stood on the train track, and the train is probably that close to him.
He jumped in front of it?
Yeah, so he stepped in front of a train that was doing 120 odd miles an hour. So it's really difficult to, that has a massive impact. And yeah, so he went 2012, then obviously my mum really struggled with that, as she would. So she had taken to drinking. And she passed away 2015, so a couple of years later.
Wow, Andy, I mean, what a life, and going through those two things. I mean, that you've just come to terms, presumably, with the life and getting to grips with who you are. Yeah. And then two of your mother and your brother.
That's right. Yeah.
You lose your mother and your brother.
You're kind of your two key people in that have gone. So yeah, very, very difficult.
And how I mean, what did you do? How did that feel, and where did you go from there? I mean,
again, it's life-changing, life-defining, isn't it? So you could either, sit down and kind of wallow, or it's happened. I can't do anything about it. I've just got to keep moving forward. So that's why I'm keen to talk about those things, because I can talk about them quite openly, which is really good. And the talking, you hope, helps other people and other families that go through that, because it impacts many people. So it would impact my brother's family, his friends, and his wider community, as well as my wider community, because it has an impact on me. And it's really hard, but it's just good to let people know that it is, it's okay to go what you're going through. It is quite normal, those emotions, the why did he do it, all those kinds of questions.
There is suicide prevention weeks, I think.
Yeah, we have suicide prevention days, suicide prevention weeks, mental health weeks, all those kinds of things. But it's stuff we should be talking about every day, not because social media says we should.
And you mentioned before, and we talked about, because men don't talk. I mean, women tend to talk, and we call our best friends, or if there's anything wrong, we love talking about it. And I'm not saying all women don't have mental health problems, or absolutely not. But there seems to be more awareness now around men having those issues.
Which is fantastic. Yeah, and there's lots of groups, and we've spoken at various men groups as well, which is really good, where you just get a room full of men and we talk about that kind of stuff. But it's around creating an environment that it's safe to do that, where we don't feel that we're not we're being judged, or if we start crying, that's okay.
That's okay.
That's actually okay. We cry quite a lot. I still watch films and I'll get sad, or I'll get upset, or I'll get frustrated, same as everybody else. But that's okay. But it's creating that environment where that's okay to do that, because there is still a lot of stigma attached to these mental health issues, which just isn't good. We're normal people, and we just struggle sometimes, and do you know what? That's okay.
That's fantastic. In terms of where you are now today, and obviously you've been through a lot, you're now working with Danny Crates, a Paralympian. I saw Danny on stage. You were both at the Yes Group a couple of nights ago, and Danny was fantastic on stage. Tell me a little bit about 1404 performance.
Yes, so we've been going a good couple of years now, which is great. So obviously Danny's an athlete, I was an athlete, our paths crossed actually many years ago, and there is a big debate, because we did race each other in Cambridge at a Southern Men's League race back in probably the early 2000s. So in between Danny winning his bronze and gold in Athens, his bronze in Sydney and his thing. But unfortunately, it was so long ago that Danny doesn't remember the race, because he's done thousands of races. I genuinely cannot
remember it.
But we know we raced, but we've no idea who won. So I always say, when I've got the opportunity, he's not here, that I beat him. But he will tell you that he beat me.
And the universe brought you back together, or whatever you believe.
Yeah, because we've been in the running world and running industry, and we met up again at another race, and we've built that using, because after my brother went, I had a stroke, but that's probably for more conversation. So the trauma of that sort of shut my left side of my body down, so I had a stroke.
So you mentioned that can you use your left hand?
Yeah, I use it. It's just really uncomfortable. It just really hurts. So it's just really uncomfortable. And a little bit frustrating more than anything. Just feels like a burning pain. But yeah, that meant I couldn't do my job where I was working at Heathrow. So they put me on a continuous improvement team. I learnt a load of science around process improvement, human being performance, and things like this. And then I took that learning and combined it with my running knowledge and things like that, and created my own business helping athletes with sort of mental performance, really, and talking about the mental health side of things as well. And then we met Danny, and we now do that in business. So we do kind of high performance within business, creating cultures, environments where people can talk about mental health, and we can get them performing much better than they potentially already are.
That's
which is
fantastic.
Really cool.
And we'll put your links in the show notes so people can find out, all about you, where you are.
Sounds really good. Thank you.
Tell me, I mean, I guess it's quite difficult if I ask the question, where do you see the future? Because you're only used to looking at a certain band of future, and if you were to live your life again, well, you've lived your life again.
Yeah.
Would you change anything different?
I don't think I would. Obviously, you could do without the heartache of losing significant members of your family. However, that's kind of created what I am today. So it's through those traumas that's kind of led me on to do some really amazing stuff, which I'm very grateful for. If I could turn back the clock, then yeah, you'd want them back tomorrow. You know, that would be really cool. But I can't do that. I'm quite realistic about that. But I've got the opportunity to keep building my life and working with that and making sure that it doesn't happen to other families. So, you know, where will I be? We just keep working hard, keep plugging away. There's a term the Special Forces use. It's ALF, always a little further. So it's just always about just pushing yourself, pushing each other, and just keep going. Who knows?
And Andy, that leads me to my last question. If you were to write a message in a bottle to be found for future generations, what would that message be?
Wow, that would be amazing. I would say just talk. If I could ask anybody to do anything, it's just talk. No matter what. Just keep talking, because that's really powerful. Because people don't know what's going on inside if you don't externalize it. So the only way to externalize it is just go talking. So sit down, have a coffee, and chat, and see what happens.
Andy, it's been a real pleasure having you on my show. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, there's a new interview out every Monday, so hit subscribe and like, and you'll get it straight into your inbox.